Hello everyone. In this session, we will understand what are the Python variables and how to use them. In computer science, variable is nothing but a container which can store data. For example, if we want to store age of a person, we can store it within a variable. Now, where this variable will be stored? Variable will be stored in memory, specifically in RAM of our computer. And in RAM, we have some memory locations where we can store the values. The memory locations can be referred using a very long number. For example, now for a programmer to access this 31 value, either we should know where is this present in our RAM. To know that, we have to remember the memory location, then only we can access this value. For a programmer, it's difficult to remember this very long number. And that is the reason we associate it with a name. For example, age. This is nothing but the variable in Python. 31 is the value which is stored in age, and the memory location is this. So that means variable is a container where we can store some value, and container will have a label or name to refer it. And as we have the name, we can easily print the content of that variable by using print function. One side note is, if you write print and within quotation age, then Python will recognize this age as a string and it will print it as it is. But if we want to know the value stored within this variable age, we have to use age without any quotation. Then only we will get 31 in this case. Now let's see what is type and ID functions in Python variables. If we print type of age, it will give us int or integer. Why? Because 31 is an integer. So using type function, we can understand what type of value is stored within a specific variable. If we print id of a variable, it will give us the memory location. In this case, 19632142 will be printed. That means id is the function which will provide us the reference number or the memory location of a particular variable. Let's think about variable initialization. How can we initialize a variable? To perform this particular task in Python, we have to write a single line age equal to 31. If we write age equal to 31 in our Python source code, 31 will be stored in a specific memory location which will have a specific long number to identify the memory location, and there will be a label or name associated with that memory location. In our case it is age. So only this single line can perform the whole task. Not only this, Python has other ways to initialize the variables. For example, if we want to store the same number in multiple variables, if our use case or the requirement is like this, instead of writing these three lines in Python, we can write a equal to b equal to c equal to 10. Both are equal. Instead of writing these three lines, we can write a single line to assign all the variables, all three variables with the value 10. Apart from that, we can also initialize multiple variables together in a single line. In such cases, you have to write a comma b, and then, for example, you can write 31 and within quotation male as your gender. What it will do, 31 will be assigned to A and male will be assigned to B. So for this, there will be two memory locations allocated. One will have 31, the other will have male. This will be named as A and this will be named as B. Both will have different memory location. That means the long number for that memory location will be different in this case. Now let's understand few best practices to define variables in Python. Point number 1, use meaningful name. Why this is needed? Instead of writing A, B and C, we will be writing meaningful name in our actual Python code. For example, if we want to store the roll number of a student, instead of A equal to roll number 51, we will be using roll underscore number equal to 51. This name of this variable gives me the information about the data or the content of this variable. This is very much needed. It increases the readability of the program. That means any programmer is reading your program can clearly understand that this particular variable is required to store the roll number. Not only this, in our real-time Python programming, we use thousands of variables in a single program. In such cases, even for the programmer himself or herself will have hard time to understand that which variable is used for what. If we use A, B, C, X, Y, Z and all these things. So always use meaningful name so that you can understand what kind of variable it is, what is the purpose of this variable. Number 2, use snake case for variable name. Let's understand what is snake case. This roll number can be written in various ways as variable name, because we can write anything as variable name. Some programmer can write roll underscore number like this. Some can write roll number. Others can write roll number, or you can write roll number. Basically, this style is known as camel case. This style is known as Pascal or Pascal case, where if there are multiple words, the starting character of each word will be in capital. In case of camel, you can see the initial character is small. After that, subsequent initial character of word will be in capital. And this is in between something. There is no such standard way to write this. And this is called snake case or snake style. In Python, we have to use snake case as best practices. Let's recap all these points before we go to the IDE and write some code related to variables. We have understood what is variable. Variable is a container where we can store the data. Variable will have some label or the name associated with it, through which we can access the data stored within the variable. Whenever we will print variable, we have to provide the variable name without quotation. If we provide with quotation, Python will understand this is a string and it will print as it is. Instead of showing you the data within it, it will show you the name of the variable. There are two functions commonly used in Python. One is type, which is used to understand the data type of a particular variable. Another is ID, which will provide you the information about the memory location or the reference, which is nothing but a very big number. We know now how to initialize a variable. While initializing the variable, we don't have to provide the data type of this particular variable. Python is smart enough to identify the data type based on the data present within that variable. That's why Python is also known as dynamic typed language. In other languages, we usually write int age semicolon age equal to 31 semicolon. These two lines, first line is for declaration of the variable, second line is for initialization of the variable. But here in Python, as you can see, we do not have the declaration line here. Why? Because Python is smart enough to identify the data type based on the data present within a variable. That's the reason it is called dynamic typed language. Apart from that, we also understood if we want to initialize multiple variables with a single value, we can easily write it in a single line like this. If we want to initialize multiple variables with different values, there is a process too. You can write a single line like this and multiple variables can be created with their values. As a best practices, we have understood that always we have to write some meaningful name as a variable. Though we can use a, b, c, x, y, z, we will not use them in our Python programming. Why? Because by reading this a, b, c variable name, we cannot understand what is the purpose of this variable and what kind of value is stored within this variable. Instead, use a meaningful name so that it increases the readability and if anyone can understand what is the purpose of this variable, what kind of value we are storing within this variable. Number two, use snake case. There are multiple standard ways to write the variable name. There are camel case, there are Pascal case, but in our Python coding, the best practice is to write it in snake case. If there are multiple words, always use small case and connect them using an underscore. Enough of theory. Let's go to our PyCharm ID to see it in action. Okay. Now we are in our PyCharm ID. Right click on the project, create a new Python file. In our project, we will understand how to create the variable first. Create a variable, it's very simple. Put the variable name and then the value you want to store within a variable. What it will do, it will store 51 in a memory location and that particular memory location will be named or labeled as roll underscore number. If we print roll underscore number within quotation, then it will print roll number as it is without printing the content of this variable. So if we want to show the content of the variable, always use variable name without quotation. Let's run this program to see what is the output of this. So as I have explained in our theory as well, 51 is the value which will be stored in a memory location. Name of that variable will be roll number. If we want to print it, it will print the content of roll number. And if we use quotation, then that will be wrong. Why? Because instead of content, it will print the variable name directly. Let's now understand type and ID functions. Type of roll number will provide the data type of roll number variable. Now we want to print it in our console to see it. What is the data type of roll number? That is the reason I have used a print function on top of type of roll number. If we run this, it will show you integer. Why? Because 51 is nothing but an integer. If we use print ID of roll number, then what this ID of roll number will provide us? It will provide us the reference number or the memory location ID, which will be a long number. Let's run this code to see it. It's a very long number, which is basically referring to the memory location where 51 is stored, and name of that memory location we have provided as roll number. Now in variable initialization section, let's try the same what we have understood in our theory section. If we want to initialize A, B and C variables with the same value 10, let me comment everything so that we can only concentrate on this part. If we run this, it will provide us 10, 10 and 10. Instead of separate initialization, we can always use A equal to B equal to C equal to 10. It also means the same, as you can see here in the output. Let me comment it out so that we can go to our next example, where we want to initialize multiple variables with different values. For example, 31 and May. If I print A and B now, let's see how it is behaving. As you can see here, 31 will be assigned with A and male will be assigned to B. And that's the reason when we are printing A and B here, it is printing 31 and male. Thanks a lot for watching this video. In our next session, we will understand different data types of Python variables.